perfect book to put you in the mood for fall. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Michala, and in today's video I'm going to do a mid-year book tag. I thought this would be a really fun way to make a spread in my reading journal and talk about all the books I've read this year so far, and my favorites, the books I'm still anticipating reading the rest of the year, and things like that. So if that sounds good, let's light this candle and we'll get started. With that lit, let's get started. I have a spare candle burning over here that you can't quite see. It's off camera, but it might start dripping. I did not think about that. So there's that. But I did it in case I need a spare one to put in there because this one's almost gone. And my candles start off so tall that I kind of need to burn them a little bit before I can put them here this close to my camera. But anyway, I marked out the title because I think I wanted to try to do a handwritten title. I don't normally do that, but I think it will fit the best when I do my stamps. They're like a little bit big, so I think I will do a handwritten title. And I'm following a tag. I was inspired by Emily Ann Reads here on YouTube. I think that's her channel name. She's new to me, but I saw her do this tag, and so I'll link her channel below. I wrote down in this little notebook everything I want to go over, so hopefully I won't forget any books. And then I printed out covers for just about every book I'm going to talk about, but I might not use all of them. To start, I want to do borders on both pages just to give me something to work with. So let's get out my micron in the 0.3 and line. I do a double line around the edges of the page. And there we go. There are my borders to start with. And the first question the tag asked was, what is your favorite book of the year so far? And this was a really hard one. I tried my best to only choose one book for each category, but I do have a couple for favorite book, and it would be these two. So the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, the whole series that I've read so far. I'm up to book 5. This is book 4 by Beth Brower, and Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. I picked Emma M. Lyon for a different category as well, so I'm going to use Daughter of the Forest for this first favorite book category. Daughter of the Forest was actually my second Juliette Marillier book. I read Harp of Kings first, and then I realized that she has so many other books, and a lot of people recommend reading the Seven Waters series by her first, which starts with Daughter of the Forest. So I put a hold on reading the Harp of Kings series and moved over to the Seven Waters series, and I have absolutely loved it. Juliette Marillier's stories are inspired by Celtic Gaelic folklore, and as the title suggests, it follows Sorcha, who is a daughter of the forest. She is the youngest child and only daughter of the Lord of Seven Waters, an ancient Irish estate. She has 6 brothers, and an evil enchantress turns her brothers into swans. And then Sorcha must endure a harrowing exile in the wilderness where she can't speak and must sew 6 shirts out of a painful nettle plant, and her vow of silence lasts until the last shirt is complete. If she breaks her vow before then her brothers will stay swans forever. And she goes through a lot. There's a bit of a traveling element to the story. There are some traumatizing things in the book, so I would look up trigger warnings if you want to. I am a pretty sensitive reader, but I still found the way the story was written to be very beautiful, and I think all the more impactful because of the serious topics that were covered in the book. But without giving any spoilers, I would highly recommend that you pick up this book if it sounds like something you would like. If you liked The Cruel Prince but maybe found it to be a little too young adult in the writing style of it, you might really like Daughter of the Forest. So for the best sequel, I'm giving it to Son of the Shadows, which is the second book in the Seven Waters series. And I thought after reading Daughter of the Forest, there was no way this book would stand up to that one. But although I do like it a little bit less, I thought it was a really great sequel. It had a similar impact on me without being too redundant. It follows a new character and a new story, but it still has some of the characters from the first book. And both of the books just have, again, the really beautiful lyrical writing, as well as the Celtic Gaelic folklore inspiration and kind of more slow burn romances. So I really loved these first two. The third one I liked a little less, but definitely am going to continue the series. The next prompt is new release you haven't read yet but want to, and I have Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. I love the Emily Wilde series by her, and I got this book the day after it released, I think, and have been intending to read it, but I heard a few people were disappointed, and I think that just made me hold off, but I'm really hoping to get to it. I do think I will like it. I think I just might have had really high expectations, and hopefully going into it with a little bit lower expectations than maybe I originally had maybe will still help me to enjoy it. So I really do want to read that book still. I also love the cover of it. For my most anticipated release of the second half of the year, I have two books. Really, I have three, but I didn't print covers of all of them. I have The Whisper Wicks, the third one, which is called The Heart of the Weirdwood by Jordan Lees. I have been reading this series ever since the first book came out, I think 2 years ago, and then last year the second book came out, and this year the third book is coming out, and it comes out in August, and I've already pre-ordered it, so I'm really excited for this book. And then I have Hollywood Ending by John Green. I have always loved John Green's books, especially growing up. I have not read Everything is Tuberculosis, but really want to, because actually, fun fact, I have had tuberculosis and I wrote a paper about it in college. But anyway, Hollywood Ending, I honestly don't know what it's about, but I know John Green wrote it, so I want to read it, and I'm really anticipating these two books. But I'm also pretty excited about the new ACOTAR book, I'm not going to lie. That book, I'm one of those people who ACOTAR got me back into reading, and while it's not my absolute favorite kind of writing, and I prefer fantasy over romantasy, I still am really excited for that book. I feel like that series just holds a special place in my heart. It was just really fun, and so I'm looking forward to that book as well. For biggest disappointment, I didn't print a cover of it because I don't want to include that on my spread, but I picked Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh. And I honestly just feel like I wasn't in a good place to read this book. I had wanted to read it last December and didn't get around to it, so I read it in January, in the first month of this year, and I just wasn't feeling it. I kind of felt like it was a bit too frivolous and a little shallow feeling, just in my personal opinion. Nothing bad. If you're in the mood for a fun romance, I think you would enjoy it. It's very holiday themed, so it'd be perfect for Christmas, but I am putting that in my biggest disappointment just because it's one of the books I rated the lowest this year, and I think a lot of that had to do, like I said, with the mood I was in when I read it, so nothing bad against that book, but that's probably my biggest disappointment. For biggest surprise, I put The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. While this is also one of my favorite books/series so far this year, I wanted to include it with biggest surprise because I truly did not expect to just love it so much. The first book didn't really sell me completely on the series, but by the second book, I absolutely fell in love. And honestly, this series alone could fit a lot of the categories for me. It makes me laugh and cry and maybe not like bawl my eyes out, but you know, I shed a tear maybe when I read some of the books so far. And I'm on the 5th volume, like I said, and I really want to continue. I honestly am just saving my Audible credits. I like these books on audio a lot because the narrator does such a great job, and she's one of the few females who can do a male voice that doesn't bother me. And I just love her accent and the way she reads the humorous parts as well as the more serious parts. She just does a great job. So definitely love this series, and I'm choosing it as my biggest surprise of the year so far. And that leads me to my next prompt, which is newest fictional crush, which I'm going to pick Pierce from the Emma M. Lyon series. I have just loved getting to know his character, and he is very endearing. He's the tenant at Emma Lyon's house, and they get to know each other by passing notes through a door that connects their rooms, or through a crack in the wall. But they pass notes to one another because they're living in the same house, but he is her tenant, like I said, and he's a photographer, and I just really love their notes. I love their banter. I love how he encourages her to read new things. He gave her her first Emerson book, her first two actually, and I just really love their dynamic. So for newest fictional crush, I am picking Pierce from the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. For book that made you cry, I'm picking Into the Blue by Emma Brody. I wanted to fit this book in somewhere because I really loved it. And other than Daughter of the Forest, that made me cry as well. But since I already talked about that book, I wanted to choose Into the Blue. This book made me cry, and I think the most recently. I read this in May, and I loved it. It is a romance that follows two kind of acting theater nerds. They're kind of like Star Trek Trekkies, but for a different fictitious show in the book called Into the Blue. And it's a romance, but it deals with some family trauma. It has acting in it, improv acting specifically, that was really interesting. And ultimately, it has this really deep connection between the main two characters, and they have their own reasons to think they can't be together. And yeah, just different things that went on with the characters and the health of their family members and stuff like that just made me cry. So I'm picking, for a book that made you cry, Into the Blue by Emma Brody. I'm placing my new candle over here, but like I said, it's too tall to see right now, so sorry about that. For books to finish this year, I have Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas and A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. So both of these are in series, and Kingdom of Ash is the last book in the Throne of Glass series, and I really want to finish this whole series this year, so I put the Kingdom of Ash to kind of represent that if I finish that, the series will be over. So that's a pretty big deal because there's still like 4 books left. I think I'm on the 4th to last, so there's 3 after the one I'm on, and they're all getting thicker. So if I can finish that series by the end of the year, that'll be great, especially because I want to pick up the new ACOTAR book, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. There's a new book coming out, I think, in October or November, and it'd be nice to finish the Throne of Glass series before then, but we'll see if I can do that. And then A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett is the second book in the Leviathan series, and the first book I read last year, and I loved it. I read it like this time last year, so it's been a whole year. I don't know why I waited so long to read the second book. I own it, and I would love to read it before the year is over. I remember the first book really well right now, so I would like to read the second book before I forget everything. Oh, and I accidentally skipped Most Beautiful Book. I wrote it down, but I have 2. And I put them over here so I can show you, because I figured for Most Beautiful Book I should show you. So I have Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. I'm currently reading this, and this is the 10th anniversary edition, and I just love how this cover looks. It's kind of weird or kind of creepy perhaps, seeing as I have no idea what this animal is. But I personally think it's beautiful. It has silver in it that reflects, and I like the design choices of putting this blurb by Stephen King over here and the text up here and the pink 10th anniversary edition text. So yeah, I just really like this cover of it. And let me show you the inside. And it's one of the only books that I have obtained this year that I think is particularly beautiful. I thought about putting Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter, and this book is really beautiful, but again, I don't have it yet. So then my runner-up is this book that I honestly know nothing about it anymore. I heard someone talk about it and it was new, and I pre-ordered it because it was on a significant sale if I pre-ordered. So I have this nice hardcover. It's called The Sun and the Star Maker by Rachel Griffin, and I just know whoever talked about it on YouTube when I saw it made it sound really good, and it's really beautiful. So this I got the beginning of the year, and yeah, I just think it's really pretty. Let me know if you've read it. Look at the edges. They look like stained glass. I don't love just plain sprayed edges most of the time, but I really like this one because it has like a pattern on it. I'm trying to make sure it's far enough from the camera it'll focus, but yeah, I really like this cover, and then the inside. Look how beautiful. So yeah, this is probably the most like traditionally beautiful, and then this is kind of spooky weird. I think it's beautiful kind of thing. Books I want to finish this year, I think I will put Kingdom of Ash, since that's like a bigger feat to finish that. I think I will put that cover on here, and then maybe for the most beautiful book obtained this year, I will do Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, since I'm currently reading it. And I do love the colors in The Sun and the Star Maker, but my color palette right now of the covers is a little more kind of muted, and I think I'd rather lean with the muted covers than with the really bright ones, just because I'm using these like star and nature stickers. The next prompt is how many 5-star reads do I have so far? And I counted and I have 12, which I feel like is really good. I did make a caveat of it might be 11 if I changed the rating I gave Wuthering Heights. I gave it 5 stars because it's a classic and because it's really well written, and just doing the deep dive on the backstory of Emily Bronte and her family with Kristen and Mads on their YouTube channel. That just made me have a really good time reading the book. But honestly, there were some parts of Wuthering Heights I thought were kind of boring or repetitive, and then I liked the last like 20% a lot more than the rest of it, just because it was like a little bit depressing. And that doesn't mean it's a bad book, but just for me personally, if I'm being more honest on my enjoyment level, I would probably give it 4 stars. So I made a caveat of that, but regardless of if it's 12 or 11 5-star reads, I feel like that's really good, and I'm really happy with that. And I will pop up on the screen all of the books I've given 5 stars. A lot of them are the rereads / re-listen to of the Harry Potter series, the full cast audio editions I've been loving, Juliette Marillier's books, Emma M. Lyon, that whole series I've been giving 5 stars, pretty much most of those books. Throne of Glass, a lot of those books are 4 or 5-star reads for me. And yeah, I feel like those books account for a majority of my 5 stars. The next prompt is what books do I want to reread before the year is over? And I have 2. I have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, which is a little bit like the book The Secret History by Donna Tartt, if you've read that. Or if you've read this book, I wouldn't be surprised. It's very popular, and it is about thespians studying Shakespeare and getting lost in kind of the acting process and becoming the characters in the plays that they're rehearsing. And you follow a past and present timeline, and in the present timeline, one of the students is in jail for a murder. So it is kind of like a mystery as well of figuring out what happened while they were at school. So I want to read this around October for Halloween. I just really enjoyed it. I read it 2 years ago, I believe, and I want to reread that. And then I have A Dark and Secret Magic by Wallace Kinney, which is in a similar vein, meaning it is more of a spooky Halloween set book that I hope to reread in October. This book follows Kate, who is a hedge witch, and it feels like the perfect book for October. It kind of gives Practical Magic vibes, and I have not seen Practical Magic. I know I need to watch it, but on Goodreads it even compares it to Practical Magic, and it has a lot of small town autumn vibes. It's really, I feel like it's the perfect book to put you in the mood for fall. It's pretty lighthearted, but there is a scarier or darker kind of undertone to certain parts. And the parts where it's not darker, it's very small town, like pumpkin carving contests and all sorts of things like that. So I think it's a perfect book for October. And since I didn't read it last year, but 2 years ago, I want to read this one as well. And so let's see if I can make room for all of these last books. And then for the next category, I'm not going to put a new book cover. It is 5-star predictions. And pretty much all of the books are already included because I predict that I will give The Third Whisperwicks 5 stars, I'm hoping. I also think I will give Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett 5 stars. And then kind of a random I have on here is just Rebecca Ross. I put Rebecca Ross because I feel like any of her books, I'm hoping I will really love them. If you've read her books, let me know which book you would start with. I currently own A River Enchanted, so I think I'll start with that one, but I know I've heard a lot about Wild Reverence by her, as well as her YA duology. That is escaping my mind, but if you know Rebecca Ross, you know what Divine Rivals. That's the duology I'm thinking of. I'm also hoping that as I continue this Throne of Glass series, that the ending books will be 5 stars for me. A lot of them have been 4 stars. With, I think, Heir of Fire, I gave 5 stars. So I'm really hoping that as the books go on and I'm more connected to the characters, I will really enjoy that. And most likely, I'll give another Juliette Marillier book 5 stars this year. I love her as well. Let me know if you guys have any 5-star predictions for the rest of the year. I would love to hear and maybe add your books to my TBR. Really let me know any of your answers to this tag, and I will leave all of the prompts in the description if you want to do something like this as well. And then last but not least is Best Audiobook, which other than the Emma M. Lyon series, I'm giving Best Audiobook to The River Has Roots by Amal El-Moutar, because this book is short but really beautifully narrated, and the narrator does singing and a really melodic, beautiful way of telling the story that I feel like is kind of important to the way the story comes across. If you have only read this book and not listened, I'm curious to know your thoughts, but I feel like listening to it really helped me understand how it was meant to be read, if that makes sense, because it has a very lyrical song type of magic in the book. This book definitely falls under Best Audiobook. And I don't think I have room to include it on this spread, but I wrote it down, so that's good enough for me. Let's add some finishing touches, and then I think we're good. With that, I think the spread is done. I really like how it turned out. I think it's so fun and pretty, and I'm glad that I made this because I feel like this is a really fun spread that I didn't make last year. That's going to be really nice to turn back and look on later in the year, and I will try to do something like this as a wrap-up spread at the end of the year as well. Let me know if you guys have done something similar for the mid-year point that we're now in, and let me know your favorite book you've read this year so far. I would love to know, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.